August 1976. A picturesque landscape nestled against Lake Washington in suburban Seattle. Pro football's newest team has returned from training camp and now prepares for opening day. The Seattle Seahawks, an expansion team in the NFL. The difficult task of giving direction to this new squad has gone to Jack Patera, an uncomplicated man of few words and solid coaching credentials, who coached the famous Viking defensive line into legend. But his first expansion team experience dates back to his playing days, when he closed out his career with a new team in town called the Cowboys. Thus, well-schooled in the problems facing expansion teams, Patera knows success comes from solid defense, an area he hopes to develop. Success comes from talent at the skilled positions, and success begins at quarterback, where Seattle's made things happen. Go! A football team's growth is a story filling many volumes. This is Seattle's first edition.
But Jack Patera's Seahawks have acquired a reputation as a come-from-behind football team, a reputation they upheld with class against the Cardinals. Rookie Jim Zorn's 72-yard hookup with Sam McCullum narrowed the Cardinal lead to 13. Later, the scrambling left-hander demonstrated the ability to improvise that has earned him a starting job in the NFL. Jim Zorn is the unchallenged hero of Pacific Northwest football fans. But despite his heroic efforts, few expansion teams have ever won their first NFL game. The comeback fell short. In the Seattle Kingdome, the Dallas Cowboys met an ambush. Seahawk coach Jack Patera was one of the original Cowboys, and quarterback Jim Zorn was cut by the Cowboys just last year. Together, they devised the plan which had Seattle ahead 13-0 in the second quarter. But although the Seahawks were a shocking second in the conference in passing, they were dead last in defense. Taking him at his word, the Packers spent the first 3 quarters watching the Seattle Seahawks build a 20-7 lead. Green Bay's offense, which is the weakest in the NFC, ran true to form as they could neither move the ball on the ground or through the air. But in the fourth quarter, the Packers suddenly came alive. Quarterback Lynn Dickey spread Seattle's defense with some short passes and then sent Eric Torkelson, number 26, charging into the gaps. Green Bay's running attack was suddenly rolling along like Patton's army, and the Packers smashed through Seattle for 2 touchdowns in the final period to win the game 27-20. The disappointed Seahawks left Wisconsin still looking for their first win. This Sunday, they might just find it in Tampa Bay. Expansion Bowl, the officials stole the show, calling 34 penalties. 37 is the NFL record, and stepping off over 300 yards. It was only natural, therefore, that when Jim Zorn hit Steve Largent for a touchdown, it was called back. But on the very next play, a flagless one, Zorn found Sam McCullum over the middle as the Seattle Seahawks led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 13-3 at halftime. Ten points isn't insurmountable, but to the Bucs, it must seem that way. In the previous 5 weeks, they had scored only 26 points on 2 touchdowns and 4 field goals. One of the touchdowns, in fact, was scored by the Buc defense, as Tampa Bay just can't seem to buy a touchdown. Bad luck and good Seattle defense looked like they would keep the Bucs out of the end zone for yet another Sunday. Finally, late in the third quarter, a unique pass from Lewis Carter to Morris Owens brought the score to 13-10, but that was all Tampa Bay could muster. Jack Patera and the Seattle Seahawks had won. But why is Jack smiling when the victory may have cost him next year's #1 draft pick? Well, he's smiling because, in reality, there isn't a team in the NFL that wouldn't trade a draft pick for a victory. The Seahawks now have their first victory ever, but it's just the 6th week of the season, and for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there's still plenty of time.
NFL expansion created 2 new teams in '76, and their eventual meeting took on great significance for both. Finally, a chance for Seattle to hang an opponent out to dry, and even more important, an opportunity for John McKay's Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Jack Patera's Seattle Seahawks to gauge their progress in a head-to-head matchup. Throughout the first half, Jim Zorn filled the Florida sunshine with footballs as Seattle moved effortlessly goalward. Then from the 15, the Seahawks registered the game's first 6-pointer on a storybook pass to Sam McCullum. Seattle's flawless execution left the Buccaneers somewhat flustered, and a concerned Tampa Bay sideline sensed momentum slipping away early as the Seahawks went straight for the jugular. But the penalty flag that eclipsed Steve Largent's pass route proved to be a harbinger of misfortune. Largent's apparent score could have KO'd the Bucs, but the powers that be rendered their verdict. The infraction cost Seattle a touchdown, while subsequent events stirred partisan Buccaneer fans to a fever pitch. The anti-Seahawks sentiment inspired Tampa Bay's defense as Seattle was held to just 41 yards total offense in the second half. The city of Tampa rallied in support of its team's dramatic reversal. Seattle's offense had been stymied, but on this day, a new group of heroes would emerge. In many of Seattle's games, the defense had done little more than surrender points as fast as the offense scored them. But with the championship of expansion '76 hanging in the balance, Seattle's defensive unit put together a memorable game-winning effort. Seattle's defense pulled in the slack as Steve Spurrier's Buccaneer attack could not locate even the smallest hole in the dike. Ed Bradley ranged the entire span of the field, meting out stiff sentences wherever he turned up. The secondary planted its 1976 receiver crop, while old pro Mike Curtis made the game's 2 key plays. Seattle allowed only 1 touchdown and led by 3 points as the intense heat began to take its toll on both clubs. With time on the wane, Tampa Bay needed a last-second field goal to send the game into overtime. But Mike Curtis decided he'd had enough. Though you may not see it from this angle, Curtis got a hand on the field goal try. The ball flooded harmlessly toward the uprights and came to rest well short of its mark as the Seahawks won their first regular season NFL contest. Indeed, a moment to remember for a young head coach and his fledgling football team. In years to come, this organization will produce winning efforts on a much more regular basis. But no Seattle Seahawk fan ever will forget the first one. A groundbreaking of sorts on which future winning seasons will be built. Final score, Seattle 13, Tampa Bay 10.
Directs the expansion Seahawks with little more than a wing and a prayer. Both have been known to work for Zorn, but neither proved effective. Last Sunday in Seattle, the Atlanta Falcons found out what happens when the NFC's last-ranked offense meets the NFC's last-ranked defense. The Seahawks' inexperienced defense raked in 6 Falcon turnovers and kept Atlanta's faltering offense so off guard that the only Falcon touchdown was set up by a blocked punt. A forward lateral forced the Falcons to wait a little longer for their lone touchdown. But when the Seahawks had the ball, Jim Zorn wasted no time in legally moving it forward. Number 81, tight end John McMakin, caught 1 touchdown pass from Jim Zorn, and another one zipped from Zorn to rookie running back Sherman Smith, number 47. Sherman Smith is 6'4", 217 pounds, and was a quarterback at Miami of Ohio. Last week he made some history as he became Seattle's first ever 100-yard rusher. And so the Seattle Seahawks won their second game, and their first over one of the so-called established NFL teams. And they did it convincingly.
From as far away as Alaska, Seattle Seahawks season ticket holders flock to the Queen City when the Seahawks are in town. Their convergent paths lead them all to the King Dome, one of America's finest new stadiums. When the Seahawks were in town, anyone with a lick of horse sense knew the King Dome was the place to be.
At tight end, number 81, John McMakin.
Like the Tampa Bay game on the road, one home game always will be remembered from the 1976 season. In Week 9, the Atlanta Falcons came to town. Up to that time, King Dome fans had not seen a regular season victory. And so, before a loyal hometown crowd, the stage was set for an historic moment as we pick up Cairo Radio's Pete Gross and his play-by-play account.
Zorn on a quick count, drops back to pass, scampers out to his right, throws upfield, complete to Smith at the 10, to 5. He is in, touchdown Seahawks! Jim Zorn with nobody in behind him as a running back as they've got Testerman out to the right side of the field with 2 other wide receivers. Pass McMakin over the middle to 10, to 5. He's in, touchdown Seahawks! Lawrence dropping back to his own 7-yard line, makes the grab, runs toward the middle of the field, laterally now back at his own 3, hit and 50. Atlanta back in their own 27. They go on a quick count. Hunter back to pass. Throws up the right side. Picked off at the 40-yard line by the Seahawks. Return to the 30. Down to the 20, to 15, to 10, to 5. Touchdown Seahawks! The interception made on the play by Al Matthews. Matthews is being mobbed by teammates. Largent comes in motion back toward the formation. Handoff to Smith. Breaks across the 50, 45, 40 of Atlanta. Keeps going to the 35.
Nor would the Seattle Seahawks be denied. A Kingdome homecoming to remember. Jack Patera's spirited squad had challenged the NFL establishment all season, and this afternoon had come through with a resounding victory. In 1976, Zorn had the opportunity to meet his alleged prototype head-to-head. Week 10 in Minnesota. Jim Zorn against Fran Tarkington, the best of the new against one of the best of all time. A classic confrontation. Jim Zorn matched Fran Tarkington pass for pass, and this 80-yarder to rookie wide receiver Steve Rabel was Seattle's longest offensive play of the season. Indeed, Seattle's strong performance against the Super Bowl-bound Vikings served notice to all of football. The Seahawk offense cannot and will not be taken lightly. In this game, Fran Tarkington and the Vikings ultimately prevailed. But Jim Zorn and his dynamic attack force left a deep impression on all who witnessed their performance. 376 total yards and a near upset over the NFC champions. Glimpses of the greatness that someday will be theirs.
Meanwhile, up in Minnesota, Seahawk quarterback Jim Zorn led a surprisingly strong attack to a 7-7 first quarter tie with the Vikings. Despite the usual superlative performances by Chuck Foreman, number 44, and Fran Tarkington, Minnesota could not breathe easy all afternoon. This beautiful Tarkington touchdown pass, the 300th of his career, making him the first to accomplish that feat, gave the Vikings a 14-7 halftime lead. It seemed that Sammy White's catch was just the kind of play designed to break an expansion team's resolution. But the Seahawks held tough, and early in the third quarter, Zorn buzzed an 80-yard beeline to Steve Rabel, number 83, to tie the score at 14. Two Fred Cox field goals lifted the Vikings to a 20-14 lead at the end of the third period. But the fledgling Seahawks remained anxious to try their wings. With gutty determination, Seattle fought back. Executing beautifully and looking like anything but a first-year franchise, the Seahawks drove to the Vikings' 7-yard line early in the last quarter. A Jim Zorn to Sam McCullen pass was good for a 21-20 Seattle lead, and the upset of upsets was in the making. But a cool veteran like Fran Tarkenton is tough to beat, and with less than 5 minutes left in the game, his pass to Stu Voigt ended the Seahawks' dreams of glory 27-21. A close call for the playoff-bound Vikings and a game to most surely be proud of for the Seattle Seahawks. Last week in Seattle, the Seahawks were everybody's favorite. After battling the Vikings in a narrow 27-21 loss the previous week, who could blame Seahawk fans for having great expectations against the New Orleans Saints? Definitely there were moments to applaud, like this Bill Munson to Steve Largent pass. Once again, quarterback Jim Zorn proved to be a man of much potential as he rolled in for a Seahawks score. Even the porous Seattle defense had a fleeting moment of goodness. For 12 weeks, the impotent Giant offense, instead of improving and inching forward, has steadily marched backward in forced retreat. Naturally, irate fans directed their bile toward the most obvious target, quarterback Craig Morton, who spit a season's worth of venom right back at them. Although strong-armed, Morton is the perfect scapegoat because, unlike the new breed of quarterback, he is relatively immobile and hopelessly slow-footed. Against the Seattle Seahawks, Morton stood rooted in the pocket like a tree waiting to be felled, while the razzle-dazzle scrambles of Seahawk quarterback Jim Zorn, number 10, reminded many of vintage Roger Staubach. Zorn possesses charisma, daring, and talent. And unless the perils of surviving an expansion team grind him down like they did Archie Manning, he has a chance to become a star of magnitude. In period 4, when rookie quarterback Jim Zorn threw his 12th touchdown pass of the season, while amassing enough yardage to become the most productive rookie quarterback in pro football history. But for an expansion team, individual achievements somehow get lost beneath the rubble of defeat.
Seattle's real strength was its offensive team, with players up front like Norm Evans, Nick Bebout, Bob Pension, Bob Newton, and Fred Hoagland. Skilled players like rookie running back Sherman Smith were able to move right into starting positions. They responded beautifully. A year ago, Smith was a college quarterback at Miami of Ohio, so he's still learning the many skills required of NFL running backs. But he's learning fast. In his rookie year, he rushed for more than 500 yards, an average 4.5 yards a carry, establishing himself as a bona fide NFL running back. Opposite Smith was another little-known rookie who cracked the starting lineup, a powerful 230-pounder named Don Testerman, who joined the Seahawks following short stints with Miami and Philadelphia. Testerman's great balance and determination earned the praises of Seahawk coaches and earned him a regular job in the Seahawk backfield. Seattle's backs did a most competent job. But Seattle's receivers are no dogs. Local favorite Ron Howard, number 87, went from the basketball courts of Seattle U to the special teams of the Dallas Cowboys before expansion brought him to Seattle. The homegrown receiver is nimble for a big man, and along with John McMakin, Howard should provide the Seahawks with a capable tight end for years to come. On the outside, Seattle boasted the sure hands of third-year pro Sam McCullum, number 84, whose specialty was getting open deep, and whose speed produced 4 touchdowns in '76, including the 70-yarder on opening day. But the biggest story among Seattle's pass catchers was the emergence of rookie Steve Largent, number 80, as a coming star. Largent is a gifted young 4th-round pick from Tulsa University. Unafraid to go high over the middle, Largent made himself right at home in the heart of zone defenses. He's a receiver in the Fred Biletnikoff mold, with a knack for the big play, Seattle's Offensive Player of the Year. In just his rookie season, Largent caught 54 passes and turned them into 705 yards and 4 touchdowns. And he's only just begun. No discussion of Seattle's skilled people is complete without a look at the man who makes it all happen. Jim Zorn, waived by Dallas in '75, Seattle's Player of the Year in '76, compiling more total yardage and completions in a single season than any rookie quarterback ever. Some say his style is reminiscent of vintage Fran Tarkington, a rambling, gambling, scrambling offensive catalyst who invents new and novel ways to score touchdowns. Two things seem certain about Tarkington and Zorn. Both tend to stand out in a crowd, and both shake their feathers to the music of a different drummer. Jim Zorn's skills match his excitement. His elusiveness allows him crucial extra seconds to find the open man. And he throws on the run as well as any passer in football. But the left-hander isn't limited to rolling left, and his ability to go the other way puts an added burden on the defense. In short, he's the most gifted young quarterback in football, able to nail a receiver in front of the deep zone or pump, then beat the zone deep. Zorn's got the strong arm to throw underneath the zone to the sideline, as well as the delicate touch to dismantle it over the middle. He can decoy defense one way, then feather a pass back the other. He can thread a needle between converging defenders, or he can serve up a 50-yard screamer. The NFL Players Association voted Jim Zorn the NFC's Offensive Rookie of the Year, and at only 23, Zorn seems destined for greatness. His development has been swift, and already he's acquired skills that have taken other quarterbacks years to learn. A young Fran Tarkington, perhaps, but an improving Jim Zorn for certain. Several stars did shine brightly. One light of higher magnitude belonged to Steve Niehaus, Seattle's most effective pass rusher. The first-round draft pick from Notre Dame became Seattle's Defensive Player of the Year, as well as the NFC's Defensive Rookie of the Year, as voted by his fellow players. Niehaus often worked alongside Richard Harris, a sixth-year pro who found a home in Seattle and is regaining the form that made him the first defensive lineman drafted in 1971. Rounding out the front were number 75, Dave Tipton, number 74, Carl Barisic, and big number 70, veteran Bob Lurtsema. Streaking into prominence at linebacker was a bright young comet named Sammy Green, number 56, a rookie from Florida, where he was a consensus All-American a year ago. Green shared playing time with veteran outside man Ken Geddes, number 36, a three-year starter with the Rams. But the dean of Seattle's linebackers was 12-year pro Mike Curtis. Back on the outside, Curtis showed he had not forgotten how to blitz. And though the collective wear of a dozen seasons may have slowed his step, it has not eroded his competitive edge. At 33, Mike Curtis still plays the game with pride and intensity, and the move to outside linebacker should prolong his career. But there's another advantage. When Curtis vacated the middle spot, former Steeler Ed Bradley, number 38, filled it, and filled it well. The one-time backup to All-Pro Jack Lambert can anchor the middle as well as range to either sideline to make a big hit, and he guards his coverage area like a hawk. For Ed Bradley is, in fact, a hawk, a Seahawk, and he owns all the tools to become a good one. Seattle's last line of Crime Stoppers drew its strength from a well-balanced tandem of deep backs. One, a veteran, safety Al Matthews, number 29. Matthews' law enforcement colleague was second-year safety Dave Brown, number 22. A unique chemistry developed. Al Matthews and Dave Brown, like Batman and Robin, the helmeted crusaders patrolled the streets and alleys of the secondary, fighting crime in whatever disguise they found it. The dynamic duo inspired others, and soon every Seahawk agent was laying down the law. Brown, Matthews, and fourth-year pro Eddie McMillan combined for 264 secondary arrests, while on special teams, rookie Don Dufek, number 25, registered 3 of Seattle's 7 blocked kicks, including this one, which Steve Rabel converted into an easy score. The kicking game featured rookie punter Rick Engels and veteran place kicker John Leipold, the latter joining the Seahawks from Buffalo, where he was the Bills' second leading scorer of all time. But King Dome Denizens had another treat in '76 as Seattleites joined the nation for the 27th annual Pro Bowl and got a glimpse of the AFC stars the Seahawks will face next season. Players such as Pittsburgh's Jack Lambert and Baltimore's Burt Jones. Players such as the incomparable O.J. Simpson of the Buffalo Bills. Players such as Cincinnati quarterback Kenny Anderson and Oakland wide receiver Cliff Branch. Though there were no Seahawks to cheer, Pacific Northwest football fans filled the King Dome nonetheless. just as they did all season long. An amazing demonstration of fan interest and support. Seattleites know their organization is sound. The winning seasons will come in time, and the King Dome will house all the excitement. For like a good book, the Seahawks will get better as they go along. Last year was merely chapter 1.